The stars looked the same as they always did through the window of the rising dawn. Captain One stood on the bridge, watching the distant glow of the colonies grow brighter as they approached. Behind him, Medical Officer Hay-One checked her supplies one more time. She had done this 12 times already, but One understood. When people were dying, you checked everything twice. How many cases did they report? Engineer Dongmin asked from his station. Last count was 40,000 infected, Hay-One said softly. The plague moves fast. We might already be too late for some of them. One turned to face his crew. There were only 3 of them on this mission. The Rising Dawn was a small ship designed for quick medical runs. Nothing fancy, nothing threatening. Just humans trying to help like they had done for the past 47 years since joining the Galactic Assembly. "We'll save who we can," one said. "That's all we can ever do." The ship shuddered. Alarms screamed across every console. Dongmin's hands flew over the controls, his face going pale. "Multiple ships just dropped out of hyperspace around us," he shouted. 8, no, 12 contacts, they're big." One's stomach dropped. "Identify them." "Dominion warships," Dongmin said, his voice shaking. "They're targeting us. Captain, we need to run, now." But it was already too late. The Rising Dawn's engines died. Emergency lights bathed the bridge in red. Hay-One grabbed the edge of her console to steady herself. "They hit us with some kind of pulse weapon," Dongmin said. "Everything's offline. Life support is on backup. We're dead in space." Through the window, one watched the ships move closer. They were massive things, covered in dark metal and sharp angles. They looked like predators, which made sense. They were predators. Everyone in the galaxy knew that. They took what they wanted. They crushed anyone who said no. "Send a distress signal," one ordered. "Communications are down," Dongmin said. "Everything's down." The ship shook again as something clamped onto the hull, boarding clamps. They were coming inside. One looked at his crew. Hay-One was young, barely 30. Dongmin had a wife and 2 kids back on Earth. Good people, people who just wanted to help others. "Listen to me," one said calmly. "Do exactly what they say, don't fight them. We're not soldiers, understood?" They both nodded. Hay-One's hands were shaking, but she stood straight. Brave, one thought, they were both so brave. The hull door exploded inward. Smoke filled the bridge. Through it came the soldiers. They were tall, maybe 7 feet, covered in thick scaled armor. Their faces looked like something between a lizard and a wolf. Sharp teeth, predator eyes. They carried weapons that hummed with energy. One of them, bigger than the others and covered in red markings, stepped forward. This one wore a helmet with cruel horns. A leader. "Which one commands this vessel?" The demanded in rough galactic common. "I do," one said, stepping forward. "I'm Captain One. This is a medical ship on a humanitarian mission. We're not armed. We're protected under Galactic Assembly law." The big laughed. It was a horrible sound, like rocks grinding together. "I am War Chieftain," the creature said, "and I care nothing for your assembly laws. You humans think you can travel freely through our space. You think your weakness deserves respect." "We're not in your space," Hay-One said suddenly. "Check the star charts. This is neutral territory." Moved fast. His clawed hand wrapped around Hay-One's throat and lifted her off the ground. She gasped, her feet kicking in the air. "No," one lunged forward, but 2 soldiers grabbed him. Their grip was like iron. "You humans talk too much," said. Then he threw Hay-One across the bridge. She hit the wall hard and crumpled to the floor. Dongmin tried to run to her, but a soldier struck him with the butt of a weapon. He went down bleeding. One struggled against the soldiers holding him, but it was useless. They were too strong. "Take this one," said, pointing at one. "Kill the others, destroy the ship." "Wait," one said desperately. "Take me, I'll go with you, just let them live, please." Studied him with those cold predator eyes. Then he smiled, showing all his teeth. "No," he said simply, "but I will make their deaths quick. Be grateful for my mercy, human." They dragged one toward the hole in the hull. He fought. He screamed. He begged. But they were too strong. The last thing he saw was Haywan trying to crawl toward Dongmin, both of them bleeding on the bridge floor. Then he was in the ship and the rising dawn exploded behind him. The shockwave shook the walls. One stopped struggling. He just stared at the place where his ship had been, where his friends had been. Now there was only debris and fire, slowly spreading into the cold vacuum of space. They threw him in a cell. It was small and dark and smelled like chemicals. One sat on the metal floor and put his head in his hands. Haywan and Dongmin were dead. The medical supplies were destroyed. The plague victims on colonies would die without help. Hours later, maybe days, came to his cell. The war chieftain looked pleased with himself. "Your people are weak," said, "but they seem to care about each other. We have broadcast your capture across all galactic channels. Your Earth government now has a choice. They can give us 3 of their colony worlds, submit to authority, and we will return you alive. Or they can refuse, and in 30 days we will execute you. The entire galaxy will watch." "They'll never give you the colonies," one said quietly. "Then you will die," said. "Either way, humanity learns its place. You are prey, we are predators. This is the natural order." The war chieftain left. One sat alone in the dark, thinking about Haywan's last moments, about Dongmin's children who would grow up without a father. He thought about the galaxy that had rules and laws that meant nothing when power said otherwise. But most of all, he thought about Earth, about home, about what they would do when they learned what happened here. The thought they understood humanity. They thought humans were just another weak species that would bend rather than break. They had made this assumption about dozens of species before. They were always right. But they had never met humans before. Not really. They had met human diplomats and human traders. They had seen humanity be patient and peaceful and careful. They had never seen humanity angry. That was a mistake they would regret. They had 30 days to learn what they had done. 30 days before Earth would teach the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. In his cell, one closed his eyes and waited. Not for rescue, not for mercy. He waited to see if his people would prove what he already knew. That humans never left their own behind. Not ever, no matter the cost. Ambassador Sora stood before the Galactic Assembly, her hands clasped behind her back. Around her, representatives from 300 species watched from their floating platforms. The chamber was massive, designed to make individuals feel small. It usually worked. Not today. "The Dominion has violated every law we claim to uphold," Sora said, her voice calm but hard. "They destroyed a medical vessel in neutral space. They murdered 2 innocent crew members. They took our captain hostage. We demand the Assembly take action." The representative, a floating jellyfish-like creature, spoke in its musical voice. "We sympathize with your loss, Ambassador, but they are a powerful empire. We must consider the greater good. One life against the stability of the entire sector." "One life," Sora repeated. She looked around the chamber. "Which one of your people would you sacrifice? Give me a name. Point to someone you serve with and tell me they're not worth fighting for." Silence filled the massive room. "That's what I thought," Sora said. She turned and walked out. There was nothing more to say. The Assembly would do nothing. They never did when the strong preyed on the weak. In the hallway, Admiral Wu waited for her. He was old, his hair gray, but his eyes were sharp and angry. "They won't help," Sora said. "I know," Wu replied. "I didn't think they would. High Command has already made the decision. We're going to war." "Over one man." "Over the principle," Wu said. "They think we're weak. They think we'll calculate the cost and back down like every other species does. They need to learn they're wrong." Sora nodded slowly. "The galaxy will call us insane." "Let them," Wu said. "Better they fear us than pity us." Within 72 hours, every military vessel Earth had was moving. The orbital shipyards around Mars released their entire fleet. Ships pulled from patrol duty, from training exercises, from reserve status. Cruisers, destroyers, carriers, support vessels. Everything. Commander Na stood on the bridge of the battleship relentless, watching her fleet assemble. 200 ships, maybe more. She had never commanded so many vessels at once. Around her, crew members worked with focused intensity. No one questioned the mission. No one suggested negotiation. "Fleet is ready, Commander," her tactical officer reported. "Set course for space," Na said. "Maximum speed." The stars stretched into lines as the fleet jumped to hyperspace, but they didn't go straight to that would come later. First, they had a message to deliver. The controlled 12 major trade hubs scattered throughout their territory. These hubs were where goods flowed between hundreds of worlds. Trillions in commerce passed through them every day. They were heavily defended by automated defense platforms and patrol ships. Na's fleet arrived at all 12 hubs simultaneously. The defenders scrambled to respond, but coordination was impossible. They had never faced an attack on this scale before. "Target the defense platforms first," Na ordered. "Then the stations. Civilian ships have 10 minutes to evacuate. After that, we destroy everything." The battle was short, brutal, efficient. Human missiles tore through shields. Human punched through armor. Human fighters swept aside patrols like they were nothing. In 30 minutes, the first hub was a field of debris. In 2 hours, all 12 were gone. Na broadcast a message on all channels. Her face appeared on every screen in their empire. "I am Commander Na of the Earth Defense Fleet," she said. "You have Captain 1. Return him unharmed within 24 hours, or there will be no Dominion left to remember this mistake. This is your only warning." In the capital, War Chieftain watched the message with his command council. They were shocked, angry but not afraid, not yet. "They destroyed trade hubs," one council member said. "Economic targets, they avoid military confrontation." "They're trying to scare us," another agreed. "They don't have the strength for real war." Wasn't so sure. He had seen the human captain's eyes. There had been something in them, something that reminded him of a cornered predator. But the council had already decided. They did not bow to threats. They had an empire that spanned hundreds of worlds. They had been conquerors for 3,000 years. Humanity had been in space for less than a century. "We do not negotiate with prey," announced. "The human will die as scheduled." That was a mistake. On Earth, Specialist Sangwoo sat in a dark room surrounded by screens and keyboards. He was young, barely 25, but he was the best cyber warfare specialist humanity had. Around him, his team worked in focused silence. "We're in," someone said. Sangwoo smiled. They had spent years mapping networks, preparing for a day that might never come. Now that day was here and they were ready. "Execute the virus," Sangwoo ordered. Across space, communication networks began to fail. Military channels went dark. Trade communications stopped. Government networks crashed. In minutes, half the empire couldn't talk to the other half. Automated systems defaulted to lockdown modes. Ships lost contact with their fleets. Planets couldn't coordinate with their neighbors. Chaos spread like wildfire. And through it all, one message kept appearing on every screen that still worked. A simple message in language: "Return him." War Chieftain stood in his command center, watching his empire fall apart. His communication officers shouted reports. Systems failing everywhere. No contact with outer sectors. Defense networks compromised. "How is this possible?" demanded. "The humans," an officer said. "They're inside our networks. They've been inside them for years. This was planned." For the first time, felt something he had not felt in decades: fear. "Move the prisoner," he ordered. "Take him to the fortress on maximum security. If the humans want him, they'll have to come through our entire fleet." But even as he gave the orders, knew something had changed. The humans weren't fighting like prey. They weren't fighting like any species he had ever encountered. They were fighting like something else, something that didn't care about cost or casualties or consequences. They were fighting like they had already decided to win, and nothing would stop them. On the Relentless, Commander Na received the report. They had moved one to there. Good. She wanted them to feel safe. She wanted them to think their fortress walls would protect them. Prepare the fleet for Phase 2, Na said. We're not stopping. We're not slowing down. We're going to teach them what it costs to take one of ours. Admiral Wu contacted her from Earth. His face appeared on her screen, looking grim. The Assembly is condemning us, he said. They're calling our actions disproportionate, barbaric. Do we care? Na asked. No, Wu said, but I wanted you to know. You're making history, Commander. The galaxy will remember this. Good, Na said. Maybe next time, someone will think twice before touching a human. The fleet jumped again, heading deeper into space. Behind them, the 12 trade hubs burned. Ahead of them, an empire that had stood for 3 waited, still not understanding what was coming. They thought this was about territory or resources or power. They thought this was normal war, with normal rules, where everyone eventually negotiated. They were wrong. This was about something they had never encountered before, something that made humanity dangerous in a way that had nothing to do with their weapons or their ships. This was about devotion, about the promise humans made to each other that no one would be left behind, about the terrible, beautiful, terrifying lengths humans would go to keep that promise. They had 22 days left to learn that lesson, 22 days before Earth would finish what they had started. And nothing in the galaxy would stop them. General watched the planet below through the window of her command ship. 4. One of the Dominion's colony worlds, home to 15 million citizens and another 10 million aliens who lived under their rule. The planet looked peaceful from orbit, green and blue with white clouds drifting across continents. That was about to change. General, the evacuation transports are ready, her second-in-command reported. Good said, begin the operation. Human ships descended through the atmosphere, landing in cities across the planet. Marines poured out, but they weren't attacking. They were distributing information packets, announcing an evacuation. Every non-citizen had 48 hours to board the transports and leave. Free passage, no questions asked. The authorities tried to stop it. Their police forces confronted human Marines. Some of them opened fire. That was a mistake. Human soldiers responded with brutal efficiency. Not murder, not revenge, just cold, professional force that left police unconscious or retreating. Why are you doing this? A governor demanded, standing before his holographic projection. What do you want? We want Captain One back, said simply. You have 46 hours to reconsider. After that, this world becomes uninhabitable for your species. You're bluffing, you can't. Cut the transmission. She had no time for talk. Over the next 2 days, human ships evacuated millions of aliens from 6 different worlds. The refugees were confused, frightened, but they went. Some because they were being rescued, others because they saw what was in the human soldiers' eyes. No mercy, no hesitation. These humans would do exactly what they promised. When the 48 hours ended, the worlds were empty of all non-life. Only they themselves remained, along with those too stubborn to believe the warnings. Gave the order. Human ships deployed atmospheric processors, machines that spread through the air, altering the chemical composition. Not poison, nothing that would kill quickly, but the oxygen levels changed. The atmospheric pressure shifted. The temperature regulation systems were disrupted. Within weeks, these worlds would be unlivable for biology. 6 colony worlds, rendered useless without firing a single shot at civilians. The galaxy watched in horror. This wasn't how war was supposed to work. You fought armies. You took territory. You didn't systematically destroy worlds just to send a message. But humans did. Ambassador Sora stood before the Galactic Assembly again, This time they weren't sympathetic, they were angry. "You have gone too far," the representative declared. "This level of destruction over one individual is insane, immoral. We demand you cease hostilities immediately." Sora looked around the chamber slowly. Her face was calm, but her voice carried to every platform. "You asked us to sacrifice our captain for peace," she said. "I asked you then to name one of your own people you would sacrifice. You refused to answer. Now I ask you again with a better example. Which world would you give up for one of your citizens? Which colony would you render uninhabitable? Give me a number. Tell me the exact value of your people's lives." The chamber fell silent. "That's what I thought," Sora said. She turned to leave, then paused. "You call us insane. Maybe we are, but we're insane together. Every human in the galaxy would burn it all down for any one of us. Can you say the same?" She walked out. Behind her, the assembly dissolved into chaos. Some species called for sanctions against Earth. Others quietly began reconsidering their own security arrangements. If they could provoke this response, what would happen if someone took one of their citizens? On Earth, intelligence officer Wu launched her own campaign. She was a specialist in psychological warfare, and she understood something important. Winning a war wasn't just about destroying ships and planets. It was about breaking the enemy's will to fight. Every screen in space that still worked began showing images. Captain 1 helping children in a refugee camp. One treating injured aliens after a mining accident. One delivering food to a colony hit by famine. Image after image of humanitarian work. Of a man who spent his life helping others. Then the images changed. The destroyed trade hubs, the dead soldiers, the 6 colony worlds slowly dying under altered atmospheres, casualty numbers scrolling past, economic damage calculated in the trillions, fleet losses mounting. The message was simple and repeated in language. He was worth more than everything you have, and we're not done. On the people watched these broadcasts in growing fear. They had been told this was a minor conflict, that the humans would negotiate, that their mighty empire was in no danger, but the images told a different story. The humans weren't negotiating. They were destroying, systematically, methodically, without any sign of stopping. In the fortress where one was held, War Chieftain watched the same broadcasts. His command council was divided. Some wanted to fight to the end. Others suggested returning the prisoner and suing for peace. "We are the Dominion," said. "We have conquered 100 species. We do not bow to threats from prey animals." "These prey animals have destroyed 12 trade hubs in 6 worlds," a council member pointed out. "Our economy is collapsing. Our communication networks are compromised. Our colonies are in revolt. How much more can we lose?" "As much as necessary," growled. "We are predators. We do not show weakness." But even as he said it, felt doubt creeping in. He had studied the human captain before capturing him. One had no military background, no combat experience. He was a doctor who became a ship captain to help people, prey in every sense. So why were the predators losing? In his cell, one sat on the metal floor, listening to the guards talk. They thought he couldn't understand their language, but he had learned some during the captivity. They were afraid. They talked about the human fleet getting closer, about worlds falling, about communications being cut off. One felt no satisfaction, just a deep, heavy sadness. Haewon and Dongmin were still dead. The people of colonies might have died from the plague by now. And across the galaxy, millions more were dying or losing their homes because of him. He didn't want this, never wanted this, but he knew his people. He knew how humans thought. They didn't calculate costs the way other species did. They didn't weigh individual lives against collective good. Every human life mattered equally, always, and humans would do anything to prove that truth. "Why?" asked, appearing at one's cell one night. "Why do they do this? You're one being, one life. We have killed billions in our history. No species ever responded like this. Because you don't understand us, one said quietly. You think we're prey. You think we're weak because we choose peace. But peace isn't weakness. It's a choice we make because we know what we're capable of. You forced us to make a different choice. This is madness, said. No, one replied. This is devotion. This is what it means to be human. We protect our own, all of them, always, at any cost. You wanted to teach us our place in the galaxy. Instead, you're teaching the galaxy their place in ours. Left without another word, but his mind was troubled. The humans had lost trade hubs before in accidents. They had lost colonies to disease and disaster. They accepted those losses because they were natural, random. But when someone deliberately took one of theirs, when someone chose to harm a human, that was different, that was personal, and humans took it personally. Commander Nu's fleet had pushed deep into territory now. 17 shipyards destroyed, military bases reduced to rubble, supply lines cut. The fleet was scattered, unable to coordinate without their communication networks. Battles were quick and one-sided. Human ships were faster, better coordinated, and their crews fought with an intensity that shocked commanders. It wasn't just tactics or technology, it was motivation. Every human in the fleet knew why they were fighting. For one, for the principle, for the promise they made to each other. And they were winning. On Earth, Admiral Wu compiled the reports. 3 billion dead, their economy destroyed, their empire fragmenting, outer colonies declaring independence, the military in disarray, all in 3 weeks. And they still had one. Prepare for Phase 4, Wu ordered. We're ending this. The message went out to every human ship in the galaxy. Come home, come to war, come help us bring our captain back. And they came, thousands of them. Military ships, yes, but also civilian vessels retrofitted with weapons, merchant ships carrying supplies, even personal craft armed with whatever their owners could afford. Humanity was going to war as one species, united in purpose, unstoppable in their devotion. The galaxy watched and wondered if they were witnessing the birth of a new superpower or the actions of a collective insanity. Maybe it was both. Maybe that's what made humans so terrifying. They had 21 days left. 21 days until the execution deadline. 21 days to break an empire and rescue one man. The Still didn't understand what they were facing, but they were about to learn. Earth was coming, and nothing would stand in their way. The government sent their surrender terms through a neutral third party. The message reached Admiral Wu in his office on Earth, delivered by a trembling diplomat who clearly didn't want to be there. The Dominion proposes a ceasefire, the diplomat said. They will release Captain One immediately if humanity agrees to stop all hostile actions and withdraw from space. Wu read the message slowly. Around him, his staff waited in silence. This was the moment, the reasonable choice. Get one back, stop the dying, let the galaxy return to normal. No, Wu said. Admiral, please reconsider, the diplomat pleaded. Billions have died. Entire worlds are in ruins. You can end this now. You can have your captain back. Send this message to the, Wu said, his voice cold. Unconditional surrender. Dissolve your military. Submit to war crimes tribunals. Reparations for the families of the crew members you murdered. Then maybe we'll stop. Maybe. That's not reasonable, the diplomat stammered. Neither was taking our captain, Wu said. Neither was killing Haewon and Dongmin, neither was demanding we give them our colonies. They started this war because they thought we were weak. Now they're learning the price of being wrong. Get out of my office. The diplomat fled. Wu's staff looked at him, some with approval, others with concern. Sir, one officer said carefully, the Assembly will never support this. They're already talking about sanctions. Some species are discussing military action against us. Let them try, Wu said. We're not stopping, not until they understand what they did, Not until every species in this galaxy knows that humans protect their own. Always. War Chieftain received Earth's response. He read it 3 times, unable to believe what he was seeing. Unconditional surrender. The dissolution of everything that had built over 3,000 years. The end of their empire. "They're insane," he said to his council. "They would rather destroy us completely than simply take their captain back." "Perhaps that's the point," one council member said quietly. "Perhaps they want to make an example of us, to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten a human." "Then we fight to the end," declared. We die with honor, not as slaves to prey animals." Half the council agreed. The other half sat in silent horror, watching their civilization end because of pride. Captain Dong commanded the carrier group that attacked the industrial sector. His brother had served with 1 year ago. They had never met, but that didn't matter. One was human. That was enough. 17 shipyards in this sector, Dong said to his tactical officer. "We destroy them all. No survivors, no warnings." The attack was precise and devastating. Human fighters swept through the shipyards like a storm. Missiles eliminated defensive platforms. Fire tore through construction facilities. In 6 hours, they lost their ability to rebuild their fleet. Centuries of industrial development gone in an afternoon. From Earth, research officer Haewon's sister, also named Haewon, worked in a secure laboratory. She had been working on something terrible, a biological weapon that targeted command pheromones. If released, it would render their military hierarchy unable to function. Chaos would spread through their ranks like a plague. She stood before Admiral Wu, presenting her research. "It's ready," she said. "We could deploy it within hours. Their military would collapse within days." "Do it," Wu said. "Sir, this is genocide," she protested. "I created it as a deterrent, not to actually use." "I said do it," Wu repeated. Then he paused, seeing the horror in her eyes. "Actually, no, don't deploy it, but make sure they know it exists. Make sure they know we're willing to use it. Let them understand how close they are to complete extinction." Haewon nodded slowly. She leaked the research through channels that led straight to intelligence. Within hours, the High Command knew that humans had developed a weapon that could end their species, and humans were willing to use it. The psychological impact was immediate. Military units began surrendering in. Outer colonies openly rebelled, declaring independence. The empire that had stood for 3 was tearing itself apart, not from external force, but from internal terror. Riots broke out. Citizens demanded that release the human prisoner. They didn't care about honor or pride. They wanted to live. They wanted the nightmare to end. His own guards were wavering. He could see it in their eyes. Fear, doubt, the realization that they had provoked something far beyond their understanding. "How many have we lost?" asked his aide. "Last count 3 billion dead," the aide said quietly. "Economic damage is beyond calculation. 60% of our fleet is destroyed. Half our colonies are in open revolt. Our communication networks are permanently compromised. Our industrial capacity is gone, sir. We've lost. We lost weeks ago. We just haven't admitted it yet." "We are," said, but his voice lacked conviction. "We were," the aide corrected. "Now we're just the species that learned what happens when you take a human." Ambassador Sora received death threats daily, not from but from other species in the assembly. They called humans monsters, barbarians, genocidal maniacs. She ignored them all and continued her work. One day, a representative approached her privately. There were the ones who had been suffering from the plague, the ones one had been trying to help. "We want you to know," they said softly, "that we understand. Captain One was coming to save our people. He was murdered for being kind. We don't blame you for your response. We thank you for honoring his memory." Sora felt tears in her eyes for the first time since this started. He was trying to help you, and he died for it. "We know," they said. We won't forget, ever, and we will make sure the galaxy remembers who Captain One really was, not the cause of a war but a good man who died trying to save strangers. That night, Specialist Sangwoo detected unusual communications from encrypted, hidden. It took him 6 hours to break the code. "Admiral," he reported to Wu, "we have a message from someone inside the government. They're offering to release Captain One in exchange for safe passage out of space. It's signed by War Chieftain himself." "Is it legitimate?" Wu asked. "Appears to be. He's breaking from his own government, offering a personal surrender in exchange for one's safety." Wu considered this. It was tempting. Get one back without assaulting, save human lives, end the war with a clear victory. "No," he said finally. "Sir?" Sangwoo looked confused. "It's not enough," Wu said. "Killed Haewon and Dong Min personally. He started this war. He doesn't get to walk away. We're taking one back ourselves, and we're bringing to trial for murder." "The assault will cost lives," someone pointed out. "I know," Wu said, "but this isn't just about rescuing one anymore. It's about showing the galaxy that actions have consequences, that you can't murder humans and walk away even if you offer to make it right later. Justice matters, always." Commander Na received her orders and began preparing for the final assault. Was the most heavily defended world in space. Thousands of defense platforms, planetary shields, orbital fortresses. The last loyal forces were gathering there for a final stand. "It's going to be bloody," her tactical officer said. "I know," Na replied, "but we're bringing him home, whatever it takes." In his cell, one heard the guards talking about Earth's refusal to negotiate, about the fleet approaching, about the end of everything. He felt numb. All this death, all this destruction because of him. "I'm sorry," he whispered to the empty cell. "I'm so sorry." But humanity wasn't sorry, not even a little bit. They had sent a message across the galaxy, written in fire and blood, a message that would echo through history. "Touch one of ours, and we will burn your civilization to ash. We will end everything you built. We will make you regret the day you learned our name." This wasn't about one man anymore. It was about the promise humans made to each other at the dawn of their civilization, the promise that bound them together across worlds and stars. "We protect our own, all of them, always, no matter the cost." The galaxy thought this was madness. Maybe it was, but it was humanity's madness, and they would see it through to the end. 27 days since the capture, 3 days until the execution deadline. But the deadline didn't matter anymore. Earth was coming and nothing would stop them. The galaxy burned and humanity didn't care. They had a captain to rescue. Commander Na's fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the system on day 29. She stood on the bridge of the Relentless, staring at the planet ahead. Humanity's entire military force had gathered here. 500 ships, thousands of fighters, hundreds of thousands of soldiers ready to drop onto the surface. This was it, the final battle. "Defensive platforms are powering up," her tactical officer reported. "Counting 3,000 platforms. Orbital fortresses are launching fighters. Sir, they have at least 10,000 fighters in the air." "Do we have the fortress location?" Na asked. "Confirmed. Northern continent mountain range. Heavy shields, multiple defensive layers. Intel says one is in the lowest level." Na nodded. "All ships begin the assault. Destroy every platform, every fortress, every ship that doesn't surrender immediately. General, your Marines are cleared for drop. Specialist Sangwoo, kill those shields." The battle began with a light show that could be seen from the planet's surface. Thousands of missiles streaking through space. Human firing in coordinated patterns. Platforms returning fire with energy weapons that lit up the darkness. But the humans were better, faster, more coordinated. Their ships danced through the defensive fire, taking hits but giving back worse. One by one, the platforms exploded. Orbital fortresses cracked under sustained bombardment. Fighters engaged human fighters in deadly dogfights, but the humans had better pilots, better training, better motivation. First defensive line is down, the tactical officer reported. Second line engaging. We're taking casualties. Push through, Na ordered. We don't stop, not now. On the planet's surface, military forces prepared for the ground assault. They had pulled back every available soldier. Tanks, artillery, automated defense systems. They would make the humans pay for every meter of ground. Generals' drop ships entered the atmosphere like meteors. Anti-aircraft fire tore through the sky, destroying dozens of transports. Thousands of Marines died before reaching the ground, but thousands more made it through. The survivors hit the ground running, weapons ready, determination burning in their eyes. The battle for the fortress was brutal. Soldiers fought with desperate courage. They knew what humans were capable of now. They had seen their empire burn, but they were defending their last stand. They would not go quietly. Human Marines advanced through withering fire. Casualties mounted, but they kept coming. For every Marine who fell, 2 more pushed forward. They used explosives to breach walls. They fought through corridors room by room. They showed no mercy to armed defenders but carefully avoided harming civilians. Specialist Sangwoo worked from his ship in orbit, fighting a different battle. The fortress shields were controlled by a quantum computer buried deep underground. He had been working on breaking into it for hours. The cyber defenses were good, better than he expected, but he was better. "I'm in," he announced suddenly. "Shields are down, fortress defenses are offline, the building is open." General led her personal team through the breach. They fought their way down level by level. Guards fell back, fighting desperately. Some surrendered, others fought to the death. Didn't care which they chose, she had only one objective. They reached the lowest level, a long corridor lined with cells. At the end, a single guard stood before a heavy door, War Chieftain himself, wearing full armor and holding a plasma rifle. "You will not take him," said. "We already have," replied. "Your empire is broken, your military is scattered, your people are dying, this ends now. Step aside." "I am," said. "We do not surrender." "Then you die," said simply. Fired first. His plasma bolts hit armor, burning through in places. She felt the searing pain but didn't stop. Her Marines returned fire but was fast, strong. He had fought 100 battles and won them all. But he had never fought humans before, not really. Advanced through the fire, her armor smoking. She dropped her rifle and drew her combat knife, swung his rifle like a club. She ducked under it and drove the knife up through a gap in his armor. He roared in pain and backhanded her across the corridor. She hit the wall hard, bones cracking. But she got up, she always got up. 2 Marines flanked, firing at point-blank range. He took the hits and kept fighting. Killed 1 Marine with his claws, crushed another's helmet with his bare hands, but more humans kept coming. They swarmed him, stabbed him, shot him, dragged him down through sheer numbers and determination. Finally fell, stood over him, bleeding from a dozen wounds. "Why?" gasped. "He's one being, why?" "Because he's ours," said. Then she pulled the trigger one final time. The cell door opened. Inside, Captain 1 sat on the floor, thin and bruised but alive. He looked up at the human Marines with tears in his eyes. "I'm sorry," he said. "I'm so sorry for all of this." "You have nothing to be sorry for," said gently. "You were trying to help people. Come on, Captain, let's go home." They carried him out of the fortress. Outside, the battle was winding down. Forces were surrendering in massive numbers. Their leadership was gone. Their will to fight was broken. It was over. Commander Na received the transmission from the surface. 3 words that ended the longest month in human history. "We have him." She closed her eyes and allowed herself a moment of relief. Then she opened the channel to all human forces. "All units cease fire. Captain 1 has been recovered. Secure the area and begin evacuation procedures. We're going home." Across the battlefield, human soldiers lowered their weapons. Some cheered, others collapsed in exhaustion. Many wept for the friends they had lost, but they had done it. They had brought him home. On Earth, Admiral Wu received the news in his office. He sat down heavily in his chair and allowed himself to feel the weight of what they had done. 3 billion dead, an empire destroyed, the galaxy turned upside down, all for one man. Was it worth it? He didn't know. History would judge. But he knew one thing for certain. Every human in the galaxy now knew that their people would move heaven and earth to bring them home. That was worth something. Ambassador Sora addressed the Galactic Assembly one final time. The chamber was different now. The representatives watched her with fear, with respect, with the understanding that humanity had changed the rules forever. "The Dominion is no more," she announced. "Their territory is open for humanitarian aid and reconstruction. We will not occupy their worlds. We will not enslave their people, but they will face justice for their crimes. War Chieftain is dead, killed resisting arrest. Other leaders will stand trial for the murder of our crew members." "You have destabilized the entire sector," the representative said. "Billions are dead. Countless more are displaced. What you have done is monstrous." "What we have done is necessary," Sora replied. "For 47 years, humanity accepted our place as a junior species. We followed your rules. We respected your customs. We tried to fit into the galaxy you built. And what did it get us? When one of our ships was destroyed, when our people were murdered, you offered sympathy and nothing else. You told us to accept the loss and move on." She paused, looking around the chamber. "So we showed you what happens when you tell humans to abandon their own. We showed you that there are lines you cannot cross. We showed you that we mean what we say. Every human matters, every single one. And we will burn down civilizations to prove it. Let that be our reputation. Let every species in this galaxy know that humans protect their own. Always." She walked out for the last time. Behind her, the assembly sat in stunned silence. Weeks later, Captain 1 stood on a platform in New Seoul, Earth. Millions of people had gathered, not to celebrate him, to mourn. A memorial wall displayed holographic images of everyone who died in the war. Human soldiers, civilians, the sick people on colonies who died waiting for medicine that never came. "They died because of me," one said quietly to Admiral Wu, who stood beside him. "They died because they made a choice," Wu corrected. "They chose to take you hostage. They chose to murder your crew. They chose to start a war they couldn't win. You were trying to save lives. Never forget that." "But the cost was paid by those who earned it," Wu said firmly. "And yes, innocents died too. That's the tragedy of war. But we didn't start this. We finished it. There's a difference." One looked at the memorial wall, at Haewon's face, at Dong Min's, at the thousands of others. He would carry their memory forever, but he would also carry the knowledge that humanity valued him enough to risk everything. That was both a comfort and a burden he would never fully understand. Years passed. The galaxy adapted to its new reality. The territory split into dozens of smaller states, none of them powerful enough to threaten anyone. Other aggressive empires became suddenly careful about how they treated humans. The Assembly developed new protocols for protecting humanitarian missions. Captain 1 eventually returned to space, leading medical missions with full military escorts. No one ever challenged them. No one dared. The Rising Dawn Memorial was built in orbit around Earth, a station dedicated to humanitarian work, named for the ship that started everything. Every year, young humans trained there, learning to help others across the galaxy. And every year, they learned the story of Captain 1, of Haewon and Dong Min, of the war that changed everything. They learned that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their weapons or their technology. It was their devotion to each other. the promise they made at the dawn of their civilization and kept across the stars. We protect our own, all of them always, no matter the cost. The galaxy learned that lesson the hard way. They took him hostage. Earth set the galaxy on fire to get him back, and in doing so, humanity wrote their story in the stars for all time. Never bet against human devotion. Never threaten what humans love. Never assume they will calculate costs the way you do. Because humans don't leave their people behind. Not ever, not for anything. That was the lesson. The galaxy learned it well. And they never forgot.